And so I wanted to start out by asking you a leadership question. So, thinking about the current landscape that we're experiencing now in adult ed, right? What are some of the areas you, as the consortia lead, are currently working with members to address as it relates to implementation of your 3-year plan? So, any challenges are you facing right now? Or what's working well in terms of your leadership style? So, assessing how um, the development of this 3-year plan this time was a little bit challenging. And so, now how are you working with your members? In this current landscape, we're still trying to weather the storm of COVID and facing, from what I understand, will be a winter surge. So how are you working with your consortia to meet these challenges? Yes, participants can unmute. Please unmute yourself and let's have a discussion. Let's chat.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Perrell, and I'm housed at Sonoma County Office of Education, and I work on the credentialing side of
Oh,
things for
nice.
adult education. Yeah. So, um, in terms of the challenges, we're one of only 5 credentialing programs in the state of California. I learned, and I'm brand new to this role here, and so. Just trying to make sure that our online courses are accessible to our
Yes.
candidates and making
Mhm.
sure that they understand how to navigate Canvas, where to
Mhm.
go when they need help. Our program was a little bit just kind of discombobulated previously. And so I've been working to just kind of streamline everything and make it a lot more just easy for these guys to earn their credentials so they can get out and teach. So,
Yes. So, Kristen, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind putting your information in the chat because we have
sure.
so many adult schools now who
Yes.
are
Yeah.
looking for teachers and trying to get
Yes,
people credentialed. And so it's nice to have
absolutely.
someone to help us through that process.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And there
much.
aren't many of us, and our
No, there's
program is
not.
100, yeah, it's 100% online,
Awesome.
synchronous and asynchronous,
Awesome.
and we're looking for candidates, so you can send them our way for sure.
Awesome.
My
Thank you.
email's in the chat there for
Thank
anybody
you.
who needs it. Thanks.
So that question again, thinking about the current landscape that we have with adult ed, what are some of the areas you as the
Right?
excuse me?
Girl.
Marlene. So what do you as the consortia lead, are you currently working with your members to address as far as implementation of the 3-year plan? How is that working for you in your consortia or you as the lead? Are there any challenges that you're facing, excuse me, with that implementation?
I think if I can speak a little bit, I'm
Sure.
at the Glendale Community College Consortia, or Glendale Learns as we call it. We're pretty unique because we're basically the only show in town.
Oh,
And so our membership includes our workforce investment board. So
nice.
that's unique as well. So because
Very.
our local high school doesn't do anything as far as adult ed, we're doing it ourselves. And I think our challenge is basically our specific challenge of our non-credit program is finding qualified instructors also
Yes.
for ESL, which is huge, and transitioning. We still haven't transitioned to fully in person. We're easing towards it. We just got our board approval to drop mask and vaccine mandate for winter and spring.
Yes.
So I believe in spring we're going to have a full comeback to as much in person as possible, and it's hard to hit that moving target.
Yes, it
We
is.
just expanded our parking lot because that was a huge issue where we would lose students at the beginning of the year because they couldn't park and find parking on our campus.
Yeah.
So now we're hoping that with our robust online presence that we're not going to have that many people come back or have like we're anticipating probably like 70% come back in person and about 30% outside, and that would be great because then we could grow. However, we're not sure if we can meet that need either. We don't know if we have enough instructors. So it's so many moving targets. So as a leader, I'm in charge of our non-credit program. So that's kind of difficult to figure out what we're going to do. And as far as our region goes, we're using all our partners. We have a lot of community-based agencies supporting us and working with
Nice.
us. So it's just difficult to plan. We want to outreach. And one of the biggest things that I started looking at when we first implemented CAPE or AEBG way back when is to focus on our disabled students. And that's what we haven't done. And I already said, this is going to be huge when we come back, and be ready for the influx of students with a lot of disabilities. Our high school programs getting, huge already remotely, and it's going to be worse with a lot of, 18 to 21-year-olds who haven't been in real high school for a while that are going to be struggling to figure out what to do. So I think we're anticipating a storm that we don't know what it is. We know it's coming, and we're just trying to get ready. And it's hard to put that in a plan. And for all our plans, even program review on campus, strategic planning, accreditation, for everything, it's like this moving target is going to be difficult to really capture. So anyway, I'm sure I'm not speaking all by myself. I'm sure that's everyone's challenge coming up.
It is everyone's challenge. And I'm sorry, it looks like my screen is frozen. It is everyone's challenge. And one of the key points of leadership, one of the fine points that they have is that the leader must have vision, and the leader must be able to communicate that vision with clarity, with excitement, intensity, passion, so it ignites the passion of others that they are leading or influencing. So as you said, it's a moving target, which makes it very difficult to hone in on just one thing. And as we're supposed to be working regionally with each other, bringing ourselves into alignment, have any of you had that challenge of how are you, number one, identifying the vision that you want to communicate to those you're leading within the consortia as you're looking at the goals and objectives and outcomes that we have for our 3-year strategies? And how are you communicating that with your, and is that and it's two-sided question. And does that message differ when you're speaking with your K-12 adult directors or management teams or staffing? And then does that message change in any way when you're speaking to your college partners? And the reason why I'm saying that is because every district is different. Every school district is different. They may have different goals and objectives they're trying to reach, while at the same time agreeing to meet the objectives and goals that we placed in our strategic plan and our annual plans. So how do you communicate the vision so that everybody's on the same page and we're all running toward the same vision, the same goal?
Hi, I can weigh in on that, but I believe Janae had her hand up before.
Oh, yes.
Thanks, Ilsa. Well, I guess maybe just a step back as a new consortia lead, just how you've been sort of, just so maybe some tools that you all have in your pocket on how you formulate your vision, right, in the first place. So, because I'm just sort of, I'm learning and I'm absorbing, and, I was part of obviously writing the 3-year plan. But as a new lead, I'm just curious on people's tools for sort of formulating that vision. And that's just maybe a fundamental question.
Okay, that's a good one. Elsa?
Yeah, I think that is the question, Janae. And I think this is I'm the director of the South Bay Consortium for Delta Ed in San Jose. This is my 4th year with the consortium. And prior to that, I was with Allies. So I've been working in this space and with these providers for 6-7 years now. which I realized makes me sometimes assume that everybody knows what the vision is, because I've been thinking about it for 7 years. I'm like, well, yeah, but don't you know? This is what we do. This is what a consortium is. And
Absolutely.
so I've just realized that this epiphany that I need to be a lot better about communicating that vision
Mhm.
in very simple terms, because like our 3-year plan describes it in, you know, very colorful language, narrative, like it's beautiful document, but it doesn't quite capture it in an elevator pitch, right? And so what has worked for me this year is to have a visual, and I just kind of created one slide to summarize our 3-year plan. And it's just a very, and I'm not a graphic designer, so I just like took something from PowerPoint and just one of those pre-crafted shapes and put it in. But it describes it in kind of a 3-step process. And it's like, we got to build the map, we got to help people navigate the map, and we have to support them along the way. And that's my 3-step plan. And everything in our plan kind of falls into one of those 3 categories. And I've been consistently using that visual in almost every meeting that I attend, like every steering committee meeting, every work group meeting. That's what we start with, to just get people on the same page. But it's, yeah, thank you for that reminder, Corinne. I think she left. We lost her. But yeah, I think it's just continuously, even when you get tired of hearing yourself say it, I think that's when others start paying attention. So I think we just need to do it over and over again and communicate it really well. And it's hard to do with like a lot of staff transitions too, right? A lot of new administrators coming in and out. So I'd love to hear others kind of share their experience too.
Well, I'm from Rainier Valley Community Adult School, and I came in February this year as the principal. And so one of the things that I shared with my staff in our first meeting for the new school year in August was all the data, like where we were at with our DIR, with our payment points, with everything. And to my surprise, this was the first time that they had ever seen any kind of data like that. They had no idea what the whole, you know, payment points and how even we got those payment points. One of the things that they, the assessors were constantly, I don't want to say fighting with, but struggling with was the teachers sending the students to post-test. And so, you know, you all know without a post-test, you have nothing basically, right? And so I think being open with the staff and sharing that information, I don't know why the previous principals had never shared that information before, but just being open and sharing where we're at, whether it's good or bad, because a lot of times I think as leaders, we tend to share only when we go up, when we get celebrated, when we get an award, when we get something, right? But we don't really show the struggles or what we are reporting. So they had no idea what the school reports looks like to the state. And so sharing that information, and also, like you said, sharing our 3-year plan, right? We want to raise, one of our goals is to raise our persisters or our completers, and how to keep the students, because I don't know about if you guys have the same issue or not, but in adult school, they come and they leave halfway through, or they come for 16, 20 hours and then they're gone, right? Before you even test them. And so that's one of our goals, to keep the students, to have completers and the persisters rate. And so I think showing them the data, being completely open as to what's going on, it does help. And so this year, everyone is involved in calling those students to come and post test if they've left, doing the updates. And if they feel like it's more like we're more of a team now, like everybody knows where we're at, even the teachers, when they get the email from the assessor that said, I need to assess this student, they're like, oh, you need to go, you know, or they call. So that's been a very big, I've seen a change from last semester until for this semester.
Awesome. And I am so sorry, guys. I'm having so many problems with our system. It is our network. I'm trying to even access it from my phone. And so I think our network is going down. So I'm sort of sorry about that. I can't get my video on my screen is frozen. It's crazy. I had to pull up a laptop and it's still doing the same thing. Tell me what's working well in ways of your leadership style. We lead many different groups across our consortia. So for some, we're leading transition staff, our transition specialists. We are leading our management teams or our board, if you will, the directors of our adult schools and the deans at our colleges. And so it takes a little bit of influence, I would say, to be able to understand the needs of each one of our members and understanding what their needs are, how we can assist them with those needs. And then being able to have, as I do, I have these individual conversations with my team members to get them at a side for coffee or lunch and ask how's it going at your school? What are your goals that you're trying to accomplish, that you sat down and talked with your superintendent or your vice president of instruction, and how can I and Excel help you to meet that goal? And then what do you think would help us to make our consortia better? What are the needs that you see that we're not meeting or identifying? Are there some stakeholders that we're not seeing or that we should be talking to? And how should we go about that? How do you affect change and influence, and how do you interact with each one of your team members? Because this is a hard job, and so you have to wear many hats. How are you successfully doing that?
One of the things that I started this year is forming committees.
Oh, I like it.
So, I have a curriculum and instruction, student outreach, community outreach, those two. What else do I have? Oh, a safety committee, and I have 4. My gosh, I can't think of the 4th one. And I've assigned, so like my night lead or my assistant principal, you would call. She's taking care of the curriculum and the data, or the data analysis one, making sure we have all the data, because we're getting WASC visited next year is our visit.
Okay.
And then the student outreach, and within the student outreach, we actually, the counselor is running that one, and it has like about 11 students that are starting to get involved.
Nice.
With the, activities. This year we've had a couple of student activities also. So dividing it, I guess. So I'm still overseeing them, but at the same time, I don't have to run or schedule every single meeting for those different committees. And so we get updates, they have an agenda, they have minutes and all of that. And that's how we stay together. And then we share that out when we meet with the staff. I've also increased staff meetings. In the past, I was told that they only had 2 staff meetings, one in the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year. I don't know how you can keep communication open with staff if you're not meeting them except for in the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. So
Correct.
there's more staff meetings that I've increased. And then I've also department leads. I also have one person from each department, and then I meet with them at least once a month. And then they meet with their department once a month, and then we come together during our staff meetings. And our staff meetings, I don't have one every month. Like I'm not having one in November, but I'm having one in December to celebrate the end of the semester and, Christmas, the holidays, right? And so that's what I'm doing here, and it seems like it's working. I'll let you guys know at the end of the year.
I think that's great, actually. And so it seems to me that you've empowered others to step into roles of leadership. So now everyone feels more connected and engaged.
It appears to be. So yes, it seems like I'm also really big on creating teamwork, right? And if they all feel part of the team, and if leadership is being shared, then of course, you get more buy-in, and the teachers seem to be very supportive of whatever activities we have, or we had an awards assembly. Again, that was one thing that they've never had before. And so the students I'm getting really good feedback from the students. They're excited to be here. They're like, I like all the changes that are happening. So I hope to see, my hope is to see my enrollment has more than doubled from last semester. I think I have over 800 students now. So that's a good sign. Now my real challenge is to keep them, right? How many of them can I keep to complete the program?
I had a question. As a new lead, I'm always curious how people are develop. We talk about, oh, what's your leadership style, or but how people develop that, right? So I was wondering if anyone had some input who've been doing this a little bit longer, have been in leadership roles outside of in different locations, different nonprofits or schools or what have you, how you developed your leadership style. And also too, were there any trainings that you've taken, like online or through other places that have helped you with that development?
I can speak. I just finished my master's of science in educational leadership through Cal State East Bay. They have an amazing program there that's all online. It's not easy, and it's a 2-year program, but it was really transformative for me. I was a classroom teacher for 18 years, and now I'm a project director, and it just gave me a lot of insight into my style. And how to develop that style, but then also connecting with folks like we're doing here, and troubleshooting and bringing problems of practice forward, et cetera, et cetera. So it was transformative for me. And I highly recommend just taking a look at it. A lot of the CSUs have online master's programs that are affordable and all things.
I'm lucky. I have a district who's very offers a lot of training on that. So I took a leadership classes back. This is like my 7th year as a assistant principal now. So I've had a lot of training through my district, but one of the leadership trainings that I took was NISL. I don't know if you've heard of it, NISL. That NISL, and the district, like I said, I'm blessed to be with the district. They pretty much told us to. They kind of handpick who's gonna do it right, but it's kind of, he's been doing it for, I think,
What is going on?
third year, the third cohort that I was in. And so a handful of us just kind of say, hey, do you want to participate? And then of course you're going to say yes. And it's a 2-year program. You don't get the master's, right? You get a certificate, but it's through Riverside County, I believe. And then we had leaders there from Orange County, Hemet, like from all different parts of the county. So I think all the counties are offering it. I don't know how you get selected. I kind of inquired because I heard a lot of great things about it. And so I was reached out to my superintendent and said, hey, I'd like to take this whenever you have another cohort. And then when the next one started, I was able to do it. I just finished it this past June. So, and it's a really good leadership program. It's, like I said, it's 2 years. My superintendent paid for it, my district. So, but I think you can pay for it out of pocket. I'm not sure.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. California also has 3 leadership projects. One of it's CalPro. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They also have leadership trainings, and I put their website in the chat. You might want to check them out as well. They have a bunch of different topics and academies and what have you that you can go through. So
Yeah.
that was just some info there. I think,
Thanks, Melinda.
Corinne, are you there? Your mic is unmuted. But she's popping in and out, folks. So, does anybody else have any leadership trainings areas that they've done?
I was
We
wondering
roll
if
with that?
anyone, oh, sorry for an idea, because I saw that the Cal Pro has that leadership academy. I was wondering if anyone has taken that. Sorry to interrupt whomever was about to speak.
I haven't. I've looked at it and it seems to be more for adult school administrators or like people who are actually running a program, running a school. So as a consortium director, I wasn't sure if it was a good fit. I mean, some of the content is, others might be more specific to running a school site. But I appreciate the topic, and I've been looking into like maybe masters of educational leadership or EDD programs. And so Kristen actually had a question for you, as you know, when you were selecting that program at Cal State East Bay, like what were some of the criteria for you? How did you select that one? Like what criteria did you base yourself on for determining which program to choose?
Mostly for me, it was just it being a fully online program. I live in Sonoma County, so my local university is Sonoma State, but it's still 45 minutes from my house. So I couldn't imagine with 3 kids and working full time being able to make it to classes even once a week. So this was fully online, and we did have due dates on like Wednesdays and Saturdays, but there weren't even Zoom sessions unless we, as a cohort, and we did this, we like would meet on our own time and say, okay, Thursday nights at 7, we would meet and just talk about assignments and things like that. The other thing to note about the Cal State, the one at East Bay, it's very focused on equity and social justice. So leading from that lens and making sure that we are enacting those principles and practices in our leadership. And again, it was transformative, and yeah, I'd highly recommend it. And really, really flexible in terms of just the time. I had summers off. And again, as a full-time teacher, that was important to me. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, Veronica's having a session next session on program development through an equity-based lens, which looks interesting.
I am so sorry, guys. Our network was having issues, and so my stuff kept popping in and out. But I liked hearing the information about the leadership training that you've done. I've done 4 of them so far. I did one as a part of my PhD program. I did another one with John Maxwell Leadership. I did the leadership certification. I'm undergoing the corporate facilitation one, which is an amazing program. In the corporate facilitation, there's a Zoom meeting with him and his senior management that we do every Monday, and going through the actual principles if you were leading a training through an organization and what that would look like. But he really focuses on self-examination and self-reflection. They really focus on building yourself as a leader and then developing leaders around you through an equity lens. And he talks about one of the most primary, hardest things about leadership is leading yourself and being open to criticism, not necessarily criticism, but being open to evaluation. So that the most important thing is that you are open, that you are continually growing, you're always educating yourself, and then looking for opportunities to serve, how you can build other leaders and let them step into that space and what that looks like. Dr. Yulene.
I love hearing what you're saying, Dr. Corinne. Yeah, no, to Janae's question, how do you develop your leadership style? I think, you know, it's very individualistic, right? So I did get my doctorate from University of California, Davis, through their Candel program, which is the Capital Area North doctorate in educational leadership. And that to me was just so impactful because it was a cohort model. It was we wanted as a cohort of 16, and they chose us. One of the things is we had school principals there, we had administrators, we had I was the only one at that time. I was just an ESL, just an ESL instructor at the college, but they chose us to be a cohort, and we made a decision that we were going to finish it in 3 years. And so for the 2 years, we took classes together, and that one is a structure. They structured it so you take the classes for 2 years, and then the third year is
I like
really
that.
you developing your research question and then working on your research. So my research was, because I was a faculty at that time, it was about faculty-student interaction and how positive faculty interaction affects the success of students, especially adult learners. So I talked a lot about adult learners. But I think, Janae, also there is I believe it's the Association of Community College Administrators. They also have this academy that you can, I don't know if your district, your college district might fund that, but they go through different levels of leadership. And from what I heard, there's even like a ladder kind of thing where you start at where you are. And if your goal is to become the VP of academic affairs or the college president, there's a way for you to kind of learn a lot of those leadership training. I haven't looked into it. I actually just heard about it last week in our management meeting from the college. But I think, Dr. Corinne, I don't know if this is your experience too, is just like you just looking for those training, formal, like structured training, but also just listening to what people are doing and how people are leading and say, you know what, those are the qualities I want. Let me see how I can apply that. How does that look like if I apply that, right? So I'm big on this. There's the 3 tenets of this culturally sensitive teaching, which is empathy, equity, and there's another E, I can't remember. But it's really about teaching with empathy, teaching about, like you said, being open to the different students that you have and how you really need to just listen to their voice. It's like, how are these lessons or how are these coming across to you? And so I think that is one way that we develop leadership style, is that knowing who you are, like Dr. Corinne was saying, self-evaluation, reflecting on, what are my best ways of dealing with things? How do I handle conflict? How do I manage people? Do I manage people or do I manage project and lead people? That was one thing that I'm really very conscious about, that we lead people, but we manage projects, right? So I'm sure there's other people, wanting to hear, because we're kind of in a networking with Dr. Corinne, Janae, and Elsa and I, so we can talk more somewhere else. But I want to hear too what you guys are experiencing and how you would address that question. Or Dr. Corinne probably has a
Oh
subsequent
no, I
question
just
for
put
us.
some books in the chat. Reading books is also another way to do it. Leadership Gold is amazing. I really love it. I love John Maxwell's books because I'm a pastor's kid, so let me just say that first.
Yes.
So he looks at it from I would say he takes a biblical reference but makes it in a widely applicable viewpoint, so that he's always looking at the heart of people. Leadership Gold is great, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, but I've also sat within mastermind groups as well, where the mastermind, we went through Leadership Gold, and then we went through Developing the Leader in You 2.0, and I recently finished with within a church community. We played the leadership game, and it was so funny. It was a 2-hour segment of trustees and deacons and church leadership. And while playing the game, like a card game, all of the systemic issues that we had in functioning with the team came out, and the facilitator noted them. And now we'll be going through leadership development training based on those things that were identified. The leadership game is amazing. And so that works. So if you can ever avail yourself of games, of masterminds that you can join, that really makes a big difference. When you put a group of people in a room and you're all talking about the same thing and going through it in a bigger way, it brings out a lot of training that you couldn't get just sitting in a class. So I try to make sure I take advantage of that. How about other people? How do you get your professional development? Carla Harris, thank you. I want to read that one. Carla Harris, Lead to Win. Yeah. Anyone else? How do you get your professional development? And I realize that it's costly sometimes. So I try to find ways of doing it in a very economic way. How do you get access to the leadership game? I can help you do that. That is John Maxwell has a certified team, and his team is working with our district, our church district. And so they brought the leadership game to us. So I can refer you to the next time that someone is doing the game, and let you be a participant and observer and see if that's something that you might like to bring to your group.
Hi, if I can speak, I don't know, I kind of stepped out for a sec.
Yes.
As far as inexpensive leadership is just joining things like this, conferences, in that involve your program. For example, for us, it's ACE, it's the Association of Community and Continuing Education, and just being involved in what's going on and getting emails about, being on listservs is really good too. You get informed as to what's actually happening in your area and how you can prepare. But just attending, events like this, you get involved with other leaders, and then you start networking. We can come in person, you start networking with other people who are like-minded or have issues that you want to deal with, and recommendations. You might build some kind of relationship with someone who's going to say, hey, ACA is really cool, they're going to enroll now. And then you can say, okay, I'll enroll in that. Or, this other place is a good leadership, place. And I know for me, I've been in community colleges for 24 years now, so I'm an old school person. And there's now I do more personal development. I did participate in the National Community College for Hispanic leaders. So I just went on that on my own, just to kind of get more familiar with leadership from that lens. And that helps me. As far as like going through programs and stuff, that's recommended too. If you're going to continue on, if you're starting out your career, get your degree, get into an EDD program if that's your role. But otherwise, the best way is just join these conferences and get information and be a sponge and just get it all in and use it and see how it works. And don't be afraid to develop. Like someone was asking about leadership skills. Everyone's different, and that's something you have to recognize too. Like for me, I'm more laid back, I'm more people oriented. I let others do what they want to do, and then I surround myself with some task masters and some really more energetic people who are kind of not micromanaging, but really keeping track of all the details. Because otherwise, I'll let details kind of go because I'm looking at just the global things. But it does help to surround yourself with the right people and recognize that people come in with different ways of leadership. It may not be your way, but it's not the wrong way. It's just
Absolutely. It's just different.
Yep.
Very much so. I
Yeah.
like that.
And in that same vein, Alfred, I think what has really made a difference for me is having mentors and mentorships and just identify those leaders that inspire you and that you think you can learn from and find projects to do with them alongside with them. Right, I had the great fortune to work alongside some great leaders, and that's how I've learned the most.
about what it takes to be a good leader. And so she wouldn't be shy to approach someone and, and say that they inspire you and you want to work with them on something, anything, and then just learn from others. Yeah.
Janae, you may want to look at, I belong to several professional women's organizations. One I really love is called the Elevate Network. They have leadership roundtables every single week. So you could be sitting at a roundtable discussing leadership questions with individuals from all across the country. And so it's relatively inexpensive, but they have lots of opportunities for you to learn and develop as a leader, because you could be facilitating a what they call mod squads. And so I'm facilitating a squad right now of 12 women. I'm the only one from the West Coast. They're all in executive leadership with either pharma. I have two that are with universities. One is with NYU, another one is at Northwestern. And so they're also talking to me about their non-credit courses, which is pretty interesting. It's just a half an hour once a week, but it's a really great way to chat with them and kind of pick their brain about what's going on. And so that's also a way that that you can do it. Do any of you other belong to Dr. Yulene or Kirsten or Elsa? Do any of you participate in any professional organizations that also give you opportunities to learn or further develop your leadership skills, Elsa?
Not currently. I think the same kind of like working professional with children and trying
Oh,
to
hon,
do
I
everything.
understand.
But yeah, I'm kind of coming out of that. I have teenagers now who are a little more self-sufficient, so I think this is the time where I can start thinking about my own learning more.
Mm-hmm.
That's all to TMI. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, this is great. I mean, it's just a way of trying to find ways, particularly now, since we were, and that's what I did when I joined this one. The California Council on Adult Ed. Thank you. I want to look at that one. I was looking for ways to get out because we were locked in for 2 years, and so I was like, okay, so I don't want to regress. I want to continue moving us forward. So how can I network with other people in a corporate or education space so that I could, share ideas and pitch some challenges to them and see what their take would be. Yeah, and so that's something that we're doing. So leadership really does encompass a lot of concepts, theories, and strategies. So are you using any core strategies or concepts or theories that are helping you effectively move your consortia or move your 3-year strategy more toward the needle, moving the needle in your region? One of the challenges we have in San Mateo, there's a lot of educational providers here. And now I understand that we have a Amazon warehouse here, and Amazon is actually bringing in an educational provider for their high school diploma GED. And so I feel like it's a missed opportunity for us because they're right in the middle of us. We have schools in Daly City, South San Francisco, then we're here in San Mateo. They're very, very close in the middle of those schools. We also have some private providers who are offering at ridiculous prices, guys. A CNA program is $10,000. Considering that CNAs only earn about maybe minimum wage and they're in nursing homes, I just cringed when I heard that. The MA program, it's with Unitech College, it's $15,000. Their LVN program is $50,000. Their RN program, and I only know because my sister is a public health nurse and she's been in nursing for 20 years or so. She's an instructor that she says she can't take it anymore. She's got to leave. Their RN program is $100,000. And they are opening campuses everywhere. And there is a campus in South San Francisco, which is in the middle, like steps away from my South San Francisco adult school campus. There's a lot of competition. I feel that they're preying on our target audiences, because they're making these promises to these students that you're going to get in, you're going to get out, you're going to get a job, not having many requirements. So we really need to think about strategies. That's one of the challenges I'm having, is how can we move into connecting with our communities more, and changing the narrative about who the adult school is and how we work effectively with colleges so that we can change the paradigm, I would say, of who the adult school is, what the community college has to offer, and how we can be a high value training partner that has a direct pipeline to employers. How can we change that dynamic? Now, I don't know if that's what that's like in your consortia areas, but those are the challenges that we're facing.
I think we might have all different challenges in our different regions, but from listening to, people speak at all the TAP trainings and, this summit, it always seems to come up that there is this rebranding that needs to occur for the adult schools. And then one of the challenges is that, the adult schools don't have a lot of funding for rebranding. And so just wondering if maybe that's something that we can do as leaders, is come together and have a rebranding work group, right? That where we can kind of, although we all might offer different CTE, but most of us all offer ESL, right? And we all, in one sense, are trying to do similar things so that we could maybe come up with some statewide adult ed rebranding that then we can utilize at each of our agencies as we want. So that might be something for us to think about, maybe
That's a great
collectively
idea.
being a part of.
That is
That's
a really
really
great idea.
interesting, Janae.
It's a great
Yeah,
idea,
Dr.
yeah.
Corinne, I agree. Just talking about, when we had Ken Shelton speak about how Steve Jobs has this one, what
Yes.
was it called? Vision statement?
Yes.
Like, what is it?
Every desktop has an Apple, every pocket has an Apple.
Right?
Yes.
Very, very simple, right?
Yes.
So what if, like you were saying, what if as adult ed, we have, like how they have move ahead with adult ed kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
So then how do you operationalize that, right? But,
Right.
like have one logo for, adult ed and saying better training, better job or whatever, just one phrase that is a very catchy. But I
Yes.
think, I don't know, we probably need marketing consultant, but that's expensive. We don't have budgets for marketing, right? Who has budget for marketing? Christina, Kristen, do you have a budget? No.
Maybe
Elsa,
the
do
state
you?
does.
Okay.
If we gathered, right, and made a sort of a unified front on this and started doing some of the work, right? And then if we proposed it to the state, maybe
Ooh,
there
I
would
like this.
be some way for the state to use some of their funds. I mean, it seems like they're doing an RFA for TAP College, maybe there's an RFA for rebranding adult schools
Well,
or
here's my
something along
thoughts.
that line.
Yes, here's my thoughts, and this is just kind of my left brain from the nonprofit side, is that it would be great if we could begin developing relationships with employers who had a problem that we were able to solve. So should the problem be with our hospitals, from what listening to my sister telling me that nurses, the reason why there will be a huge, there's a nursing shortage now, but it will continue to be greater because in times past, when she started nursing right out of high school, she said that there were team nursing. So you had an orderly, you had a CNA, you had a sitter, you had a team of 5 and an LVN and an RN. So that this team of 5 worked with patients. Well, she said 5 years after she started nursing, they decided that they were no longer going to do that because it was too expensive. So then they began giving they phased out LVNs from the hospitals. And then they said, okay, RNs, you're going to have 18 to 20 patients one person. So now you no longer have someone who's helping you change that bed, do whatever that patient needs. That's your job. She said that they started finding that nurses were not being able to stay on the floor for more than 3 to 4 years because they were going out with workers' comp injuries. She said that is the average age of nurses now is 35 or 40. Their bodies simply can't take the pressure. So there is going to be a huge exodus of nurses either leaving the acute care, because she went into nursing informatics, then she's now a public health nurse, and she said she loves it. She would never go back into the hospital. And many of the nurses are taking flight that way. So I
Mhm,
see there's an opportunity for the adult
mhm,
school now, because now some nursing schools are saying that before you come to us, you must be a CNA. But
mm,
who's going to pay $10,000 to be a CNA, which is just like, I
mhm.
mean, just horrendously horrible.
Right.
So it's an opportunity for us to step in. Yes, Erin. So how can we do that? Erin, your thoughts?
Well,
Mhm.
I don't have an answer to your question, but I have another fact that
Yes.
may hurt you.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, we're just going through the process of opening up an LVN program, and the
Awesome.
state themselves is charging like $20,000 just to apply. So just to
What?
apply to us
What?
for an LVN, yes, yes. So it's something that's a bigger issue, is that the public schools don't have the funding to do that necessarily. I'm
I
lucky. I'm
don't.
with LAUSD. We can throw that money around like nothing, but it's across the state that there's this problem
$20,000.
that
Jesus.
just to apply. Yeah, check it out.
But then that comes back to, what about the equity though? You know,
Yeah.
so I was thinking if we could again find a problem that adult schools, and now I was thinking about youth's presentation this morning. It clicked in my mind then when she said that beyond the region. So if adult schools got together and said we can solve your problem, but however we need your help. And if we went to major healthcare systems and said, if you would work with us to develop our curriculum to make sure it meets your needs, that we could train our students to, again, meet your needs. Would you help us? Because we need to invest money in marketing to attract the student that you need, to pay the teacher that can give you the student with the skills that you need. Would you be willing to help support us? And would you be willing to give us money to help push this initiative along? And by having your name and your branding all over this initiative that we're working together in partnership, because we want to help create a strong workforce for California, but particularly addressing this chronic need that we see in healthcare, particularly as we're now going into another surge, and God only knows that COVID's not going away, it's just going to morph into something else. It's something that's needed. It's going to give the hospitals what they want, increase visibility, and make people think that they're such a benevolent social for the good of our communities, but it would also help us in the same time. The only problem is, how do we receive the money? We're not a 501c3 necessarily. So if we were doing this as collectively, that would be the challenge of how do we receive it? How do we apportion it? Or do we do it through our regional consortia?
So what's the biggest hospital around you, Corinne? Is it
Sutter.
Adventist Health or
I would
Sutter?
say Sutter and Kaiser are the two
Okay,
largest.
Sutter
Mhm.
and Kaiser, yeah. Because I don't know if you guys were in that presentation by Rob Muir from Illinois.
Mhm.
What happened was that during COVID, a lot of the hospitality jobs were eliminated. So a
Yes.
lot of multilingual workers were out of job.
Yes.
Well, there was Boston, what was it? Boston, they manufacture things in medical, something Boston
Mm.
Medical. Well, they came, there was 5 people from Costa Rica and came to their adult school and want to get learn English, right? They were engineers or they were, they were there and they wanted to learn more English. And so what Rob Moore and his team is, let's talk to the higher ups in this Boston Global Medicine, I think, or Medic, something like that. And eventually, a year or so later, then they started offering English classes at the site for Boston. And then pretty soon, the English speakers were asking for, can we have Spanish lessons? Well, Kate can't fund that. That's different. But this, started this, there was a need. There was a big manufacturing company that was co-located, and they began this employer type of collaboration. So I'm like, okay, so Sutter and Kaiser, who can we talk to there and say, hey, let's start small.
Right.
Can we offer ESL class, or
That's
can we
right.
offer basic skills class that many of your workers would be willing to, if they want to get their diploma,
That's
and
right.
then move on to CNA, for example? I don't know.
Absolutely. No,
So
but
just
no,
a
I think
big
that's a
idea
great
there.
idea. That is a great idea.
And I can attest, I was an RN for 14 years.
Oh,
My body, after 6 years, is done
oh,
on the floor. And I know
yeah.
exactly, it was in the 80s that I worked as an RN in the hospital. And yes, there was a shift because it was an approach to nursing that changed. So you were talking about concepts and theory and structure. So when there was a shift to how we do nursing care, there was a big, almost like a big paradigm shift of
Wow.
how we do nursing care. And that's when it wasn't a team collaborative work, 5 of you working with one patient. It's now one nurses to 5 patients.
Well, in her
And
hospital, they
ICU,
had 18
ICU and
patients.
CCU.
No, they
Okay.
had 18 patients. I'm like,
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
that is
No, yeah, that,
insane.
yeah. So yeah, I can attest to that. I do know my body is like,
Oh, I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
So.
Janae.
I had actually a quick coming back to a point that Alfred was brought up at the very beginning with high school diploma. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if any of the other adult schools are seeing an opportunity, unfortunately, to help students, see high school seniors, right, who did not get enough credits during COVID to graduate, who might be needing to, take, that they could finish their degree or they could get their GED at the adult schools. I was just wondering if anyone had been seeing sort of that growing at your school, or is there a way that you guys are sort of advocating to connect with the high schools more on that? I'm just curious. I just know that I personally have friends whose child is going through that right now.
Mm,
And they're not in this state, but and I'm trying to help them with, some possible maybe dual enrollment their senior year, or what are the but when you're a struggling student, dual enrollment isn't necessarily the best option for you because the college courses are more challenging, so I was just wondering if anyone had been seeing an opportunity for us to help that population of our community members that might not have gotten their high school diploma with their other with their peers.
we have. We've been through this consortium since I've gotten here. That was one of the things that we worked on is the students can do Ingenuity. So they can do it online at the same time. So they can, and then we call it credit recovery.
Yeah,
So they
credit
can
recovery.
still, so hopefully those, but again, if you're not an online learner,
Yeah.
that's not very good for you.
And that was already the problem for a lot of students during the pandemic, was the online learning environment. So there's already, some trauma wrapped around that.
So we are
Yeah.
reaching out to the continuation school so that to talk about again, if they're in continuation school and they're still not making it, then we
Yeah.
can talk about the opportunities that you can have with us and then be duly enrolled in a CTE program,
Yeah.
possibly as you get closer to the end of your program, or just see what that could be possibly like to give you some more motivation to hurry up and finish this, expeditiously finish your high school diploma. But yeah, that's definitely something that we can look into a little bit more as well. Is there a way that we can do it without the online process? I think that would be helpful. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And I do apologize for our issues here on our network, and we're still having so it just didn't pop me out. But great conversation. Thank you so much, Melinda. I do apologize for popping in and out, but these, technology is wonderful when it works.
Yes, it is. And when the gerbils aren't fed, they don't run fast enough sometimes. So,
That's true.
you got to feed your gerbils, folks. The next session starts at 2:30. Please check the TAP site conference to figure out what session you're going to be doing next. I hear there's a pretty good one that's going to be done on applied digital skills.
Ah,
Oh, I
wonder who
may
that
need
could
that one.
be. So
I need
I'll
that
be
one.
there.
you are so
Um,
funny, Melinda. We're so
you
glad
know,
you're still around.
it's with enough coffee. Yes, the jokes come. So,
Thanks for all the
seriously,
book
have,
recommendations, guys.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this will be I've got to stop recording. I don't know that this jam is going to be remediated and posted because there's so many speakers, and that just puts a kink in the get along as far as remediation. But I do know that we're saving the recordings for a period of time. So if you really want to watch something or you want to
Mhm.
remember something, especially with all of the leadership stuff, Janae, you might be able to plead, and maybe with Dr. Holder,
Yeah.
giving them a little nudge, just, hey,
Yeah.
hey, you
Yes.
carry weight. You carry weight, Dr. Holder. So Holder Jackson, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
It might, it might push, might allow somebody to watch the video. So
Okay.
I'm just
Janae,
putting that
I'll
bug
do
in
my
your
best
ear.
to
There's nobody here listening to me, so.
get it
Okay.
done, and if I can
Yeah.
find a way to get you the leadership game
Okay, yeah,
for
it
your
just
group,
sounds
yeah,
interesting. I'm just looking for
it's
tools right
fun.
now because we actually are doing our vision statement and our mission statement and
We're
we're
doing it
doing all
too.
that right now this year. And so I've
A
been
lot of
doing
work.
some research and, we don't really have the money. Right, is
We
this,
don't
yeah,
either.
let's to like,
Hey, Janae.
yeah.
I'll lend you